Hello, hello. This is DJ Morena Libre on the mic. You are tuned in to Radio Feminista, straight from Brownsville, Texas. Tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. for conversations, fresh perspectives, and topics that speak to the feminist in all of us. Radio Feminista, only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. Back. This is DJ Morena Libre on the mic. You are tuned in to Radio Feminista. Well, we are back, and with me today is Dr. Juan Jose Garcia. He's the producer of the show along with me. And I just want to, before I introduce him, I just want to say that today marks the third season of Morena Libre on Vaquero Radio. The first two seasons were on La Hora Feminista, the Feminist Hour, alongside Joel Chirinos. And Joel is now hosting the Library Talk and everything else on Thursdays at 10 a.m. So please tune into that show. I did this morning, and it was a wonderful show. So just to welcome Dr. Juan Jose Garcia.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. It's good to be back. Kind of, in a sense, missed being here in front of the mics and just having conversations with Morena Libre and also the wonderful guests that she brought on the past two seasons. And hopefully we'll have a very good lineup for this season. But it's been quite a ride since the last time we talked to each other, and can't wait to kind of get back into it.
Oh, great. Let me see. Okay. Then I'm glad. So just to give a little recap about, just what happened the first two seasons, and then also why why I decided to take a break, right? So I took a break last year from La Hora Feminista, fall of 2024 through spring of 2025, to rest, to recharge, and to refocus. After 2 years, right, of doing the show on Friday mornings with Joel, having guests on, and just powering through the wonderful interviews that we invited from community, from the community, from the UTRGV community. It just became quite the toll. As I was trying to balance other projects in my life. So we took a break. I needed time to rethink the show and to make a progress on other projects that I had been putting off. However, there was a point last year that I really did regret that I did not that I wasn't part of the show, that I wasn't airing. So there were many significant events that unfolded last year, and I deeply, deeply regret not being on air to address them. I think the most consequential was the presidential election. I could go on about what has happened in the past 9 months since he took office, but those events will soon be regarded as historic. And at the core of this, however, is the profound, I think, uncertainty about the direction we are headed towards as a country and as local communities, right? So just reflecting on our history, the future, unfortunately, does not appear hopeful for many of us, and it hasn't been hopeful for many. However, though, I do turn to the feminist within me, and I do find hope. I find hope in the vibrant community that I am part of, people tirelessly working across every front: immigration justice, reproductive justice, gender justice, environmental justice, and yes, even educational justice. Their dedication and resilience remind me that change is possible and that communities are definitely strong and will continue to be strong and will come through and pull through for each other.
Yeah, and I think that if you were able to and go back and kind of listen to some of the shows from the first two seasons, I think that those themes you just mentioned, right? This resilience, can be seen in those conversations, right? And and a lot of those activists, which is feminist activists, which I would call feministas, right, are still around. They're still doing the work. They're still, they're still out there. They're still um, uh, hitting the streets, as they say, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that yes, the past, at least since last year, right, when the election happened, it has looked and it still looks a little bit, it looks bleak. But I think that as far as our community, right, and I think that's part of why you, like being the main voice and face of the show, but us, as scholars, as activists, I think we decided to kind of come back is because we want to make sure that these voices
Yes.
are out there, right? That people do know, like, hey, even though things might be looking like we're our cart is just about to fall off that cliff, there are people holding on to it, right? They're not letting it completely go over.
Yeah.
And I think our community plays a big role in that.
Oh God, she said it beautifully. Yeah, and you're right. This is the reason why we come back because we know, we recognize, and we navigate these places, right? We navigate the community. We navigate the 956, and we see that there's a lot of work being done, right? And that there's so much work. There's so many people who are standing up, who are doing everyday work that is needed to help out those most vulnerable, and especially right now. And part of the coming back is highlighting those voices as much as we can, right? Because some I would not want to bring on because I want them to continue doing the work that they do, and I don't want to jeopardize anything. But just know that we see you, and that you are here, and you're in our hearts. And then those that we are going to bring on, we want them to talk about the work that they're doing, the tireless work that they're doing, to think about the environmental justice issues currently happening here locally, that are affecting all of us, and that affect our air, that affect the land that we live on. And also all the other, the erasure, right, and the censorship of historical struggles and histories of people who are not always on the history books. And what are some of the efforts that are being done to highlight that? And then what are some of the unfortunately, right, what are some of the things that are happening in Texas that are trying to also repress that history and continue to repress that history? And also, just the gender reproductive justice that's happening too. There are so many people out there educating youth to be aware and to know what their options are, so that they don't fall through the cracks, so that they don't put themselves in or are not jeopardized in any way or not hurt in any way. And that there are spaces of refuge still in the community that are supporting youth whenever they find themselves in a position, right, where they need help or they need to seek out help, and to bring out and highlight the violence against our transgender folk. And then, yeah, I mean, there's just so much. So we hope to cover all this in this next season, bring in more voices, and talk about what all the work that's being done.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing is also to think about is this, is that when you think about the title of this, I know that part of you being off this past year was rethinking the conversations, right, that you want to have, and also the title of the radio, of the
Yeah.
change of it, right?
Yep.
Because if you think about it, right, like Radio Feminista, right, radio has been around for a long time, right? It's and it's a medium where people turn to get information, right? To listen to what's going on back when my grandmother, great grandmother were around. They had maybe one radio for the whole little pueblito, right?
Yep.
And that's how you would know, not just like what was happening nationally, right? But when something happened to your neighbor,
Yeah.
right? When there was a sale, right? When you can go and sell your stuff, or you wanted to buy something. This was also the medium where you would be like, selling my wares, right?
Yep.
And I think that as time has passed, right, that's one of the things I think that has, for me, I feel like has been lost about modern technology, right? Is that yes, we can get information now. We just turn on our phone or computer or whatever, and whatever we want to listen to or whatever we want to hear is there, right? But again, but I think for me is that localness, that
Yeah.
locality, right? Like for us here, the 956, as everybody's very proud to to display, even our football team, right? Um, is getting to know our community again, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that's been happening again with this loss of this traditional media is we don't know our neighbors like
Yeah.
we used to, right?
Yeah.
We are afraid to go knock on someone's door and ask for a cup of sugar,
Yep.
and I think that part of the conversation, right, is like you're saying this wanting to erase histories, is wanting to erase, in a sense, communities, right? And I think that the second part of the title, right, the feminista part, right? I was I was raised a feminist, right? I was raised by my mom, by my aunts, all the women in my life, including present company, right? My daughters, I'm still learning from them. Um, but one of the things that I have come to not just learn, but really take in, right, is that I know my history because of these women of the past and the present, right? And I think that the, the name change, right? The keeping the feminista but moving it more to radio. I think that's part for me. I think that's part of this movement, right? This again, part of keeping the conversation going, keeping the community alive. Is this? It's just continuing the conversation, and in this case, not not just leaving it to the feminine part, right, of us to continue this history, but everybody needs to be involved in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so we did change the name of the show. It's now Radio Feminista, and I had already been using Radio Feminista in the Instagram page, because I mean I'm bilingual. My first language is Spanish, and there is so much work being done in radio, and in feminist radio, and I've been able to connect through social media to a lot of work that's being done in Latino America because of the name. So it felt like I had joined a community, right, of radio and of feministas. So I decided to change the name, and also just to give you a little bit of history, the first two seasons, right, are called La Hora Feminista, the Feminist Hour. And it was something, the reason it was named that way, it was really funny. When I was asked to interview for the show, when I was trying to pitch the show, I said, oh, like como una hora feminista, right? So it kind of stayed as the title of the show. I hadn't really come up with a name. So I've had 3 years to really solidify the name and then come forth with it. So Radio Feminista is what we're moving with now, and I love it. It's simple, it's quick, and it's true to to its form. And like you said, I think for me, the radio aspect is it's an awesome technology. I grew up on radio. I would sit down and listen to the radio and record music,
Mm-hmm.
record make my mixtapes uh, through the radio. And thanks to all those DJs over the years who put out really great music and really great content. And then so for me, radio is nostalgic, and even though we're streamed, right, it's radio in a new form. And then the feminista part, yeah, I mean, it's for me, I grew up here. I was born in Matamoros. I grew up in Bronzeville. I grew up I was raised by a feminist, you know, and I was raised in a matriarchal family, right, where the woman reigns and the woman has power and the woman makes decisions and the woman handles the finances and the woman is the one who ultimately is leading our family, right? So for me, that's the stand in the perspective I live through. And then I grew up through my mom's memories of, her activism. Until this day, she's probably more activist and more active than I am, right? Because she's out there. And she's constantly every day voicing she's loud, in her expression of what is unjust in this world. And I'm so glad that my daughter is getting to experience that and to live that the same way that I did. Probably more loud now than when I was growing up, but which is great.
Yeah.
Um, and and yeah, so I think for me it's been a process of finding my own feminism, right? Because fundamentally, this show is about teaching, about learning what feminism is about, especially on the border and especially from me, right? Because this is my show, this is my perspective. And I'm inviting people who I think are speaking to that feminism, right? Into a border feminism as well. And I throw border in there, not lightly. Like it's because I have issues with the border identity, as it has been presented or it has been co-opted. For me, the border is a material reality that we've all had to grow up with. We've had to grow up with a physical border, one that has a very dangerous and very disheartening reality in our lives. But it's also a border that I was privileged enough to cross through almost on an everyday basis, and it connected me to my community in Matamoros, and to my mom's community, and to relatives, right, across the other side, across the Rio Bravo. So for me, it's also a bridge, right? And I have that privilege of being able to express it as a bridge. Um, but I don't want it to become this overcast, right, of who we are as communities, as a community, because that is not all we are, or we are all representative. I've read a lot about the border, and I've read news articles about things that happen along the border, and cities get erased, communities get erased, and it all becomes the border, right? And then that becomes our identity. So for me, that's dangerous. So this is almost like claiming the place that we are from, and the different identities, the different cities that form this region, right, and this delta. So for me, that's also something that along the way I'll be discussing, and it's part of my feminism, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, like was born in Reynosa, grew up in FAR, so I'm more from the, Italia, the middle part of, I guess you could say, of this 956, this border, right, as you say. But I think all of us, even today, I mean, even if it isn't as easy as it was maybe when we were young, right, to have this crossing over
Yeah.
without I think the lines have always been there, probably not as long as they are now,
Yeah.
right? But I think that part of um, part of this conversation, like you said, is the fact that I think that when you started, talking and you were talking about this erasure of communities, right? I think part of that is the terminology, right?
Yeah.
Historically, that's how we, I guess, in a sense, start to draw over or shadow over either an individual or individuals, a community, and stuff like this, is by saying, okay, you're no longer all of these individual people. All you all, and now for us, all we are is the border, right? And again, and even then, part of that erasure of us is the fact that they look at the border as this dangerous place or this gate that lets you in and out, right? And not the communities, like you're saying, that are here. And so I think part of it is that again, I grew up the same way as you. It's like it's like Monday through Friday we were over here because I was in school. But come Saturday afternoon, either Saturday morning or afternoon, boom, we go across. We do our shopping. We do whatever. We go see our families. It was just a connection.
Yeah.
I mean, the gate has always been there because there's always been the border patrol people on this side and the security check on that side, right? You always have to go through that. It's always been there. But I think the difference now is that there is more of a mark, right, as to when you get in the line, right? Who, if they see that you are from here or not, right? Because if you have papers, right, you get to just kind of pass to the front of the line and just come in. If you have authorization, you have to wait in a longer line, right? And I think that to me is part of that conversation of renaming this area as a border is again who can and cannot come through, right? And that's part of, for me, that's part of in a sense trying to break that, bringing in this activism, trying to bring in these conversations, right? It's how do we get rid of that? How do we make sure that that's not how we're seen when we go somewhere else and we're like, oh, where are you from, right? And we tell people I'm from Bronzeville, and again, the first thing that comes is to the people's mind is the border.
But you and I have traveled quite a bit in the U.S., right?
Yes,
And
yes, we have.
we always meet somebody who knows where Bronzeville is at, right? Like this has it has happened my entire life, and now you're starting to see, right? As we're traveling, you say that the word Bronzeville, it's like, oh wait, I've been there, or I've crossed those borders, or I used to, we've heard so many stories about people experiencing something about Bronzeville, and they'll have something good to say,
Yes, that is true.
right?
Yes, yeah, and I think that's something where the conversation should always be, right? That right there, that again, that people have experienced it, right? Yes, people might come down or they don't come down, but if they do come down, they come with this pre-existing notions of what the valley is and what Bronzeville is, right? They're expecting, I don't know, drive-by shootings every day, or people invading, I don't know, whatever they're imagining, right?
Yeah.
And then they come down and they're like, no, that's not, what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing has nothing to do with the communities down here.
Yeah. Okay, so you're listening to Radio Feminista with DJ Morena Libre. We are going to take a music break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break. We are back. This is DJ Morena Libre on the mic. You are tuned in to Radio Feminista, and with me here today on our first show is El Doctor Juan Jose Garcia. He is the producer of the show as well. So welcome again, and thank you for being here today. So just to kind of talk a little bit about what's going to be ahead, right, in the future shows and how we're going to maybe structure it, right, how we're thinking of structuring it. So we are going to be inviting, like we mentioned earlier on, we are going to be inviting guests to come talk on the show, to share their work, the activist work that they're doing. And then in between no, after like 2 or 3 interviews, our producer will be coming on and will be helping with we'll be reflecting on the shows and what we've, the guests that we've had, the discussions we've had, and it'll just be you and me and the producer. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things I think that we kind of learned right from the 2 seasons that you and JC were doing the show, and I would kind of come in periodically. We would have a conversation. I think that helped, right? I think also kind of bring the show and the audience kind of together, right? Again, because I think that if you look at the show, right, you're like, oh, Radio Feminista, right? You probably one of the first things that comes to someone's mind is say, no, it's like they're going to be talking about either community or a specific topic from that perspective or that point of view, right? But also, but I think sometimes if that's all people are listening to, right, then I think for me at least the core of what the show is about, right, is again, like you mentioned, right, this is from your perspective, but from this feminist perspective, I think can get lost. And so I think one of the things that we want to make sure is, right, as scholars, which we are, right, is something I've always, that I learned from my mentors, but that I do, and I think our kids, because we homeschool our kids. One thing is I think our kids are starting to not like, they're starting to hate, it's that teachable moment. Everything is a teachable moment, and so I think that's also it's part of. I think it's part of, at least for me, I feel that's part of this show is also that, right? Is those teachable moments, and how can we bring those teachable moments together into one conversation?
Exactly, because at the end, right? Well, not at the end, but we are academics. We are in an academic space, and the reason we are here, the reason this show even was conceived, was in hearing a conversation around feminism. And I've been here 4 years, and I've realized that there's a reason why, right? I grew up in it, and I think it's a muted conversation. It's happening. It's just probably on mute. So this is an opportunity, right, to unmute that and to have that conversation in a more public setting, so that our students and our community can start understanding what feminism is, right? That it's not only about burning bras, or these images of the Eurocentric or the white feminist, who we've historically been taught, or it's not only the suffrage movement, or there's so much around feminism, and ultimately, really, what feminism means is that it's equality for everyone, right? So, and that everyone is incredibly important, right? Because it represents an entire spectrum and rainbow, and of people and identities who deserve to be in an equal plane, right? Who deserve to be equal, and it also speaks to the world that we want to live in, right? A feminist world that we want to live in, where everyone is equal, where the resources, where the world and the planet and the land that we inhabit is shared equitably, and it's respected and it's taken care of, and that we grow up understanding that the planet is our relative and not a resource that we can extract from. So that we understand that the structures that we live in, it's about education. It's about teaching our young that the type of world that we currently have, and the type of world that we can have, and then the types of worlds that are out there that are living and thriving and have been doing so for centuries, for millennia, really, and also knowing our histories and our ancestry, so that we can connect to it and so that we can have a heritage that we can be proud of. All this is wrapped up in feminism, right? And we all deserve equality. We all deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of who we are, where we live, where we come from, or etc. Right? So yeah. So I think that for me is something. It's important for the show because I want to hear more of those conversations. And I want students to tune in. I want staff to tune in. I want other faculty to tune in and listen to those conversations. And if they want to be part of that and they want to come through, hit me up. I'm on Instagram, Radio Feminista, and you want to come and talk, let's have a chat about the work that you're doing to help your community and then your perspectives, right? So I do want to make just a few announcements before we do get off the air. Today marks the 24th anniversary of September 11th. And it's, you know, I'll ask you, I mean, I'm sure you remember where you were at. I was working at the time at MCI WorldCom in San Antonio. I was living there, and I was working, and I remember I had a later shift. I've never been a morning person, so I worked I worked at 10 in the morning. I came in at 10 in the morning, and by that time it had already happened. But in the morning I was busy and I was just heading off to work, and when I got in, the TVs were on, and we all started tuning in to what was happening. So, and then everything we learned, and everything and how it shook, right? Not only the U.S. but the world, and it created a new world order, another world order, right? It shifted our world view. And I was just listening to a show this morning about the families who lost relatives in the towers, and in the also in the airplane, and in the attacks, right? So and they haven't 24 years, they still have not received a trial. Okay. There's been plea deals that the families have not even been aware of. There's been nothing. And I mean, they're still seeking some form of justice for what happened to their relatives in 9/11.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was doing my master's in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was at the University of Utah. I worked in the department. I was the assistant to the administrative assistant in the department. But I remember, I've always, well, maybe not as much now, but I was always a early riser, right? And my morning routine was always, get ready, make my coffee, and I'm a news junkie, right?
Yeah.
Anything that as you can attest, every podcast or every chance I get, I'm on the news, right? But I remember that morning I was taking the train in, the train into the university, and my phone kept going off, right? And it was like friends from Texas, or colleagues in Salt Lake, right? My friends who were in the program with me, who also were in the same department. Because the thing is that we had just gone to a conference in New York that weekend, right, or before, and 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 I was because my presentation was one of the last one, was the one on Sunday morning, right?
The one no one goes
The
to.
one the one that no one goes to. So I was one of the last ones to come back, right? And so when and I had decided to stay a little bit longer. So when I flew back, I had flown back the day before, this happen, right? And so when I got to the office, right, even Marty, who was the administrative assistant, awesome individual. It's like he like saw me, and the first thing he hugged me. He was like, I was like, what the hell, right? Oh, sorry. But so anyway, I thought it's something that happened at the department, but no, but then it's like as I started kind of listening to the news when I got to the office and stuff like that, and he had the TV on because we had, he always had a TV on in his office. That's all that was on was just, and that's all that was on, right, for months and months. Was just that, and so for me, it was one of these, like you said, this changes, right, that has really impacted a lot of individuals, right? But unfortunately, for me, in my opinion, right, it's been a change that I think that the moment that we're living in today, I think that was that turning point, that new world order, as you say, right? And so I think that now, right, the conversation when you think about 9/11, yes, definitely we should always remember, right? Because one of the things that, like you were listening to a podcast, I was watching the news, right, and they were talking about it, and there was almost I think about 2,500 people who perished that day, right? And out of those 2,500 people, they have only identified 1,400 of those people, right? And so so one of the conversations is having is for all of those families who still don't have that closure, right? Who still don't know. And of course, they're talking about the technology and DNA and stuff like that. But in a way, right, it's that conversation, like you're saying, of those voices, right, that aren't there, of those families that are still. I think that yes, seeking justice, right? That's because I think that's just something that we all want. But I think what it is more. I think it's just a conversation of closure.
Yeah.
And remembrance.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't made it to the memorial. But yeah, it marked my life for sure. I mean, just like the most recent one, right? COVID. Like it's just these moments, right, in history where we go through. And I'm not that old, but I'm at that age already where shoot, like we've lived a life, and we've seen things that I don't want to often see. And there's a lot of things that we are going to be talking about in the show that are can be heavy. So for those of us who just so you all know, both of us, Morena Libre and Dr. Juan Jose Garcia, are also mental health first aid instructors. We're both certified. So mental health is also a really important aspect of our profession. So that is something that we're also going to be talking about frequently in the show. Another thing that before we close the show, another thing that I wanted to talk about is UTRGV turns 10.
I know. I guess on a brighter celebration.
Yes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 10 years, yeah.
10 years. So I am not a graduate of UTB, but I attended UTB. I am a graduate of UTPA, both my bachelor's and my master's.
Same here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this whole coming together 10 years ago, we weren't here, but we did hear the ripples that it had across the RGV, right? So here we are, 10 years later, and I'm privileged that I was able and that we were able to come back and be part of this community. And also be part of our community, right? And continue being part of a legacy, I think, of higher ed here in the RGV.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it is a privilege. We are privileged that we were able to go away, get our PhDs, and be able to come back, and in a sense, continue having a conversation with our communities.
Yeah.
So here's to many, many more.
Yep.
And yeah, and we'll be having conversations the rest of the semester
Yeah.
going through.
And then, well, you've been paying attention to the football team?
Yes, I have. We've having so far it's a good season. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But I guess go Vaqueros, huh?
Yeah. Okay. And then we also have a swimming team.
Hmm.
We need to talk about more about that. I think it's a women's swim team. So yeah. So a lot of things that are happening. Best to everyone who's starting a new decade, right? To all of us. And I wish everyone well. Any last thoughts?
Nope. Just hope to continue having conversations with you all. Continue listening. Welcome to a new semester. All new entering freshmen and juniors, sophomores, and seniors. And let's have a great year. All right.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to thank everyone. Before we get off the mic, thank you, muchísimas gracias for spending this afternoon with Radio Feminista. I do want to shout out to all the UTRGV student media for the excellent work that they're doing. I just ran into one of my students, and he's perfect for the TV. Anyway, to Dr. Juan Jose Garcia, who's here with me today, for his endless support and help in producing the show. And then most lovingly to Vaquero Radio for all the support they gave La Hora Feminista and now to Radio Feminista. And finally, to everyone listening in Bronzeville and beyond, I really appreciate the support. We had a great community for 2 years, and I hope I still have your support as we continue as Radio Feminista. I am DJ Morena Libre. See you next week. Same time, same love. Until then, stay loud, stay proud, and take care.